Am I amplified yet? There I am. Good morning, everyone. Isn't this rain great? It helps the trees. Oh, we're talking about trees today. I have a poem to start us off. I think I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast. A tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray. A tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair. Upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. I think I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. That poem was written by Joyce Kilmer. Come, let us worship together and celebrate our Earth's awesome trees.
Here is a path I walk alone, in the dark, in the soft, in the green. Towering trees on either side bid me hush, urge me on silently. High overhead, cold stars shine bright, guiding me on with their glittering eyes into the secrets of the night, while the thrush sings a sweet melody. Winding my way through glades and bowers, blossoms of white scenting the air, nocturnal creatures with footsteps light go scampering off to their lair. Into a clearing, a waterfall, on a crystal pond, floating swans sleep. With a start and a flurry, they take to flight, gliding off, leaving silence so deep. Here is a path I walk alone, in the dark, in the soft, in the green. Towering trees on either side bid me hush, urge me on silently. High overhead, cold stars shine bright, guiding me on with their glittering eyes into the secrets of the night, while a thrush sings a sweet melody. Lead me on into the woods, in the moonlight where unicorns may play. Hush now, dream on, night is weaving its spell until day.
Wow, Susan, that was beautiful. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. My name is Sandy Portillo Robbins, and I'll be your worship associate for today. So happy to see you all. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to better welcome and care for one another. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you've come. And whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. As we begin, we want to acknowledge that this church occupies land in Huichin, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. We understand that we continue to benefit from the seizure and occupation of this land. We acknowledge and embrace our responsibility to take restorative action. We affirm that this is deeply felt and commit our congregation to be in right relationship with Indigenous communities, aligning in solidarity, supporting Indigenous projects, and caring properly for the land. Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words. Blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of the human spirit touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of reason, the fire of compassion, the fire of community, the fire of justice, the fire of faith. It is the fire of love burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow in every life. We also pause to remind ourselves of some of the foundations of resilience. With Reverend Michelle, we light a candle of courage, a candle of acts of service, a candle of fellowship, and a candle of hope. May we find and cultivate these foundations of resilience in ourselves and in one another. And now, please rise in body or spirit to join in singing our opening song, Rising Green. It's number 1068 in the Teal hymnal, and the words will appear on the screen.
This
please remain standing and join me in saying, sorry about that, and join me in saying our covenant. Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another. Please be seated.
Thank you. I love that piece. All right. Let me invite our young folks and young at heart folks, if you want to come forward for a talk. I don't know if it's really a story, it's a talk, and we're going to talk about that tree. You can stay with your grown-ups if you want. Okay, story time. Come on up, come on up. Anybody else you want to yell story time with that kind of glee? Story time. All right, we're going to talk about that tree up there on the picture. Yeah, you know what? So trees have Latin, all plants have Latin names. Actually, all beings, we have Latin names too. And that is Ficus religiosa. Ficus, fig, religiosa, which kind of sounds like the word religion, and it's known as a sacred fig tree. So it kind of makes sense. It's a ficus tree. You know what it's also called that most people know it as? A Bodhi tree. That's easier, they say. It is easier. But it's also a really, really special tree because I want to talk about the Buddha and about that tree. So you know what the Buddha was before he was the Buddha? He was a rich prince. He was rich. He didn't know a day of hard work in his whole life, but he wasn't quite satisfied with that. So this is funny up here. Just have to tell you. Okay, so the Buddha, rich prince, didn't know a day of hard work in his life. He also knew no suffering, no lack, no want, and he wasn't satisfied. So over time, he went out to outings outside the palace and encountered a sick person, an old person, and a dying person. And with that, resolved to leave this rich prince life of his and go and figure out what to do about the suffering in the world. For 6 years, he endured the most extreme self-denial in the Hindu tradition and still hadn't found the answers he was looking for. So he went and sat under a tree. He said, I'm not getting up from this tree until I found it. For 6 days, he sat under a tree like this one. And then, after those 6 days, he saw through to the truth of reality and suffering and entered that perfect state of oneness and bliss, nirvana. But thankfully, he decided not to just hog that for himself, but got up to bring it to the rest of the world. Thus was born Buddhism. Now, that tree, the tree supposedly he sat under, was first cut down in the 2nd century BCE, and then again in 600, the year 600 of the Common Era. Each time it's been cut down, another tree of the same kind has been replanted. So there are said to be saplings that are descended from the tree the Buddha sat under all over the world, including that one. That one's at the Mahabodhi Temple in Bodh Gaya, India, and is often cited as a direct descendant of the original. There are also said to be direct descendants in Honolulu. If you ever want to take a trip there, find a descendant of the Bodhi tree, or a little bit closer to home in Thousand Oaks, California. So if anybody wants to have a tree bucket list, I have a tree bucket list. Does anyone else have trees on their bucket list? I'll see if I can fix that for y'all in this service. Working on it. So anyways, that's a super awesome tree, descended from the one that helped the Buddha find his nirvana. All right, so young ones, you're staying with us in the service today as we are celebrating the birthday of trees. I'm sorry, there's no cake. Trees don't eat cake, they eat rain. We do have that today. But anyways, so if you want to return over to the front of the sanctuary or over with your grown-ups, then we'll keep on celebrating trees. All right. For our time of meditation and silence today, I'm going to invite you into a guided visualization. It's going to be about 3 or 4 minutes, and you are welcome to remain in your seat for it, or if you choose to stand up, you might need rooms for branches, a little foreshadowing. So feel free to stand up where you are or stand up and move into the aisle so that you might have space as we engage in this visualization about, you guessed it, trees. So feel free to stand up, don't be shy. All right. I invite you, if you're comfortable doing so, to close your eyes as that helps you focus for our time of meditation. And allow yourself the time now to relax in whatever position you are, to unwind, to let tension in your body that you might be carrying to roll off of you, roll down your branches and off. Let your mind drift and your body float. Breathe fully and deeply, filling your lungs, expanding your belly as you take in air and releasing any accumulated tensions as you exhale. Take a few seconds now to breathe in that air, hold it, and then release. I invite you to give yourself permission to have this time, to not worry about other thoughts that might be creeping into your mind, other interruptions. Just don't even let them stick. Let this be your time. Feel the surface on which your body rests, whether it is the cork floor beneath your feet, the redwood at your back, the cushion under your seat. Feel the surface upon which your body rests. Settle in to this surface. Feeling balanced, feeling well-rooted and sturdy. As you feel in through your roots and your rootedness, imagine you are the only tree on a small hill. Maybe you are a trunk, maybe you have some branches, maybe you have stretching branches. Feel free to stretch your branches out, whether they are low or in the middle or way high up. It is just before dawn. The sun barely visible over a distant hill. The entire area is covered with a foot of snow. See the snow that you stand in. 1 foot of snow. You can feel your branches, the snow resting on your branches holding up the weight of the night's snow. As you feel the snow weighing on your branches, the sky begins to lighten and the rays of the sun peek over the horizon. It is dawn. The bright circle of the sun becomes visible over the distant hill. Feel the sun's rays warm the snow and warm your branches. Feel the warmth begin to flow through you. Soon the ice and snow begin to melt and fall off. Your branches are free. They reach higher without the weight of the snow on them. Extend them as far as you can. As you stretch your branches and stretch them out, it is time for you to awaken and stretch your own limbs as well. When you are ready, I invite you to open your eyes, stretch your body in whatever way feels comfortable for you, letting both the blood, the energy, the oxygen, the calm, the centeredness flow through you and fill you. Let in the sight of this room and those around you to be awake and fully present here with us. And let us all take a nice deep breath and let it out with a smile. Please be seated for our meditative song.
Hi, everyone. I love trees, the variety of sizes and shapes as their branches reach up to the heavens. Lately, I've become an avid hiker, thanks to the pandemic. And I'm really lucky. I live near Wildcat Canyon and Tilden Park. But the trail I frequent the most is the Rifle Range Trail. I don't know if I know some of you are familiar with it because I've seen you there, but anyway, the path, it's surrounded by trees on either side. So as I walk down the path, it just feels like you're enveloped by the trees. And there's one tree that I just really have always felt a connection with. I call it the bee tree. And I call it the bee tree because as long as I can remember, it's had a colony of bees living in it. We moved to El Cerrito in 2008, and with my children, we'd go by it quick because we'd see the bees around the tree. And every time I go down this path, I always give this tree a little pat, kind of like saying a hello. And as I leave, as I'm going home, I give it a pat to say, until next time. Of course, things change, and that's the nature of life, isn't it? I was going on my regular hike in early November, and as I was approaching the bee tree, I noticed it looked different, smaller. It was cut. The large branch that hangs over the path had been cut off. And maybe the park ranger knew something about the health of this tree that I didn't know, but I felt sad. It was like a part of me was cut. Then we had the big rains in December and January, and I would hike, in between during the dry spells. And I was coming down the path in early January, looking for my bee tree as usual, but I couldn't see it. Now, I don't know if it was because it was too heavy on one side or if it was already dying, but the bee tree had fallen. It was such a shock. I mean, it had always been there. And I hung around with the tree, just kind of being with it and trying to take it all in. Since then, I've gone past this tree many times, and I've come to realize it is the bee tree's rebirth, so to speak. It has come almost full circle in its cycle of life, and it's now nourishing all the living things around it. So as I walk by now, I look for anything new around it, and I still give it a pat to say hello, and until next time.
So as part of our little love fest with trees today, I'd like to share with you some photographs taken by Rachel Sussman of some of the oldest living beings on the planet. And now, none of us mammals or any other sorts of things with hearts or any of these things make the list. We're way too short-lived. She included beings that were at least 2,000 years old, and you'll see many of these are trees. The Sagol baobab tree in Limpopo province of South Africa, 2,000 years old. Welwitschia mirabilis in the Namib Naukluft desert of Namibia, 2,000 years old. Brain coral off the coast of Speyside, Tobago, 2,000 years old. Some of you might have seen this, the General Sherman, a giant sequoia tree in the Sequoia National Park in California, 2,200 years old. Armillaria, there it is, in a national forest in Oregon, 2,400 years old. A Patagonian cypress tree in Chile, 2,500 years old. This is the stromatolite microbial mat in Western Australia. They are 2,000 to 3,000 years old. And here's a close-up of them. La Yareta in the Atacama Desert of Chile. It's all sorts of little itty-bitty leaves on it, 3,000 years old. Lichen in southern Greenland, 3,000 years old. Olives, no, they're not that old, but the tree next to them is a 3,000-year-old olive tree in Crete. This is the remains of the senator tree, a bald cypress in Florida. It was 3,500 years old when it died. A bristlecone pine in the White Mountains of California, 5,000 years old. Somewhere in there, if you look close, you'll see Antarctic moss on the Elephant Island in Antarctica. The moss is 5,500 years old, so it's seen a lot of marches of penguins. Also in the Antarctic region, these are Antarctic beech trees in Queensland, Australia, 6,000 years old. Japanese cedar trees in Yokoshima, Japan. These live up to 7,000 years. This little guy is a spruce Gran Pikia tree in Dalarna, Sweden, 9,550 years old. And up until recently, it was much more filled out with branches. There have been the climate change impacts are what's affected its branches. A grove of Huon pine trees in Tasmania. It's an overall grove, and the nearby living trees are 10,500 years old. This is the king clone, a creosote bush ring in the Mojave Desert. Mostly underneath, you're just seeing the crown of it. 11,700 years old. Palmer's oak in Riverside, California, 13,000 years old. And this is a rare eucalyptus tree in New South Wales, Australia, also 13,000 years old. So many times what we don't see is what it really is. This is the tippy top of an underground forest in Pretoria, South Africa. It was 13,000 years old, but died due to nearby construction. These are propagated clippings from a Lomatia tasmanica. The plant clones itself and has been doing so, creating genetically identical plants for 43,600 years. This one's on my bucket list. This is also just the tippy-top hairs with one mother root. It is a colony of quaking aspen in Fish Lake, Utah. The root system is 80,000 years old. Posidonia seagrass near the Balearic Islands of Spain. The root system is 100,000 years old. And last, one more. The oldest continuously living organism in the world, Siberian actinobacteria from the permafrost in Siberia. It is estimated to be between 400,000 and 600,000 years old. And of course, with climate change, much of the permafrost is melting where this lives. Pretty amazing, isn't it? So, trees are awesome, are they not? Oh my goodness. One year when I was growing up, my family planted a poplar tree in our backyard. It wasn't a seedling, but it wasn't much bigger. I remember that once it was planted, it wasn't all that much taller than me, and I was even shorter than I am now, although a return in that direction has already started. I remember getting to help cover the root ball and being sure it had plenty of water during those first few sensitive weeks. It hadn't quite started blooming come Easter, but I still have the photograph taken of my sister and I in our Easter Sunday dresses, complete with hats, beside the young, not yet blooming poplar tree. Now, I don't know if planting day counts as the tree's birthday, but it's about as close as I can get. We lived in that house for about 5 or 6 more years, and the tree grew and bloomed. It wasn't like the other trees that happened to be in the yard when we moved in. We were the reason the tree was there. Now, a good number of years later, I took a drive through my old neighborhood on a whim. I wanted to see what that house that we had lived in looked like, if any of the colors had been changed, if the building back behind it had ever been finished. Well, some of the colors were different, and the construction had indeed been completed, no doubt years before. But I also got a surprise that I hadn't anticipated. The tree. Although it wasn't so little anymore. It was in the backyard, but you could literally see its crown over the roof of the house. Our little poplar tree. It was still there and thriving and keeping watch over the backyard. From the time we had planted it, to the Easter dress photographs, to all of the shenanigans that I know happened in the backyard while we were there, I know that little tree witnessed a lot. And since then, even more. Trees are the largest biological beings on the planet, as you just saw in the slideshow. And some of them are amongst the oldest as well. When I've walked in the midst of the giant redwood trees here in Northern California, I've thought about this every single time. With these giant beings towering over me, feeling the stillness and the smell of the trees, the sheer presence of them. Have you all felt that too? And did you know, feel the pew behind you. That's redwood. You're sitting on redwood right at this moment. Some of the redwoods are over 2,000 years old. There are olive trees in Europe and the Middle East that are that old too. They were around during the Dark Ages. They were around to see the height of the Roman Empire. These trees have seen a lot. They've shared the air with generations and generations of humans and so many other animals. And when you look inside the trees, it isn't just the rings that you see. You could actually see the things they've experienced in their lives. We humans don't have anything like that, although you can, of course, measure some wear and tear on our bodies. When my cats were kittens and we didn't know their birth date, the vet estimated it from their teeth, kind of looking at them the same way to see the wear and tear. Although plenty of rescue pets get their ages estimated totally wrong. Trees can be counted a bit more accurately, although they might not be living when they are, although you can get some pretty good information when you take the cores out of trees also. I remember seeing a cross-section of one of the giant redwoods that had fallen at about 1,200 years old. It was breathtaking, standing in the presence of that enormous disc from the trunk of this great tree. The rings were counted, and some were marked for various environmental events that could happen. You could see great fires and ash. You could see the life of the tree right in its rings. The life of this tree circles and circles and ripples and ripples. Ripples that still remember what the tree witnessed in each year of its life. A little aside, that little spindly tree in Dalarna, Sweden that didn't have the branches in the middle, it wasn't the oldest tree for a while. There was another one nearby, but that one was estimated to be younger. And a tree researcher wanted to study that tree, and he talked to all sorts of other tree experts and went through a long process, and it was decided the tree could be taken down. It was only with horror afterwards they realized they had miscalculated its true age and that they had just cut down one of the oldest trees in the world. What I love is feeling the presence of the trees as I'm among them. It feels great to walk amongst the trees and even just to sit here amongst the beautiful wood and to know the trees are around us. And you know, it's not just me saying that. Other folks have talked about this too. And you know, there's even an actual practice called forest bathing. Anyone ever done it, even informally? The Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku is forest bathing, walking amongst the trees, being among them, being there without any agenda, no hiking, no destination, no step counting, just being. And it's not just something that feels good. Forest bathing, they put through studies, and it's been shown to lower heart rate and blood pressure, reduce stress hormone production, boost the immune system, and improve overall feelings of well-being. Okay, you hear that, kids? Grown-ups too? Being with trees is good for you. You might be able to debate with your adults or the other adults in your household whether veggies or trees are better for you. But there it is. When was the last time you spent time with a tree? When was it? Walked by one, caressed it as you walked by. Appreciated and savored these tall-reaching, wise beings. So why am I talking about trees today and we're having this little love fest with them? It happens to be Tu Bishvat, a minor Jewish holiday. Not one of the better-known ones like Rosh Hashanah or Passover. It's a minor one, but it's really neat. It is the official birthday for trees in Israel. Calculating the years of a tree is necessary, you see, for several commandments in the Torah. The tithing of each year's fruit, the forbidden fruit of a tree's first 3 years, the redemption of the fruit in a tree's 4th year, and the tree's sabbatical year. Tu Bishvat is considered the beginning of the year for trees because in Israel it's the midpoint of winter when the strength of the cold becomes less, the majority of the year's rains in Israel have fallen, and the sap of the trees starts to rise. As a result of this, the fruit begins to form. And so we celebrate the birthday of trees. We celebrate them, savor them, appreciate them, and just relish their presence. So can everyone say happy birthday, trees, with me? Happy birthday, trees. Okay, you got that practice now. Now is your homework assignment. You ready for it? 2 things. Go and tell a tree happy birthday and give it a hug. Excellent. Next week, I want to hear how all of you became tree huggers over the week. All right, Celine's got some words for us now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Celine Fabiano, and this year I have the honor of being the Stewardship Committee Chair. So during most of the Sunday services in February and March, one or more church members will share what UUCB means to them and how being part of this community has enriched their lives. Why do we do this as part of our stewardship campaign? Because UUCB's value to us is at the heart of stewardship. We pledge financial support to this church to the extent we can because we believe in the transformative power of this loving and justice-seeking community, and we want to continue its good work. The following passage by Reverend Deborah Thorne is from a document titled, "What We Wish People Knew About Unitarian Universalism." It sums up why I'm a Unitarian Universalist and why this church is so important to me. Here's what she says. I wish everyone knew firsthand the power of a community that puts the respect of every person first. If you haven't been respected in your life, the experience is utterly transformative. If you have known respect, then it is vital that you bring it to every relationship, especially those who challenge your perceptions and ruffle your comfort. I wish everyone knew how shatteringly foundational our first principle is, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. I wish that everyone knew that our diversity is our strength. If the people of the world are ever going to live in mutual respect of our diversity, then some people somewhere need to be practicing how to do this. Unitarian Universalists are working on this every week. We are learning how to listen with respect. We are learning how to love with understanding. We are learning to draw the circle of us wider and wider. We are practicing how to live in the healthy and necessary tensions of a diverse community. Those words sum up why UUCB matters to me. In the coming weeks, I hope that these short talks by our fellow congregants will spark your own reflections about the value of UUCB to you. I hope these talks will encourage you to be as generous as you can as you pledge your support to UUCB so we can continue to do our transformative work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Celine. We invite you now to make an offering. In this way, each of us has the opportunity to contribute to keeping our community dynamic and resilient. We're continuing to conduct the offering without passing the plate. Instead, you can give either electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put cash or check donation into the donation envelope that you'll find in the pew in front of you. Write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it into the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half the offering plate is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our Social Justice Council. We're grateful that you've continued to practice generosity with UUCB and our good neighbors through these difficult years. Your offering of any value is received with gratitude. The good neighbor for this month is East Bay Sanctuary Covenant. East Bay Sanctuary Covenant provides legal and social services, community organizing, and transformative education to support low-income immigrants and people fleeing violence and persecution. This Sunday, we are lucky to have Lisa Hoffman, the Director of Development and Communications, to tell us a little more about the organization.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. So as Sandy mentioned, Our mission is to provide legal and social services, community organizing, and education in support of low-income immigrants and asylum seekers. And many of you probably already know about us because I think we've been one of your good neighbors for a couple years now. We do have a special focus on unaccompanied minors, people from the LGBTQIA community, Indigenous immigrants, and survivors of gender-based violence. While we serve people from over 70 countries, about 75% of our clients are from Latin America, and about 15% are Indigenous Guatemalans, Indigenous immigrants who do not speak Spanish or English. We help people like Rita, a transgender woman who was born in Mexico, abused by relatives, and sexually assaulted by police. With EBSC's help, she was granted asylum, received treatment to transition, and is advancing her career in the airline industry. We help people like Cosme and Vicente, teen brothers who fled brutal beatings from their grandmother and kidnapping, threats, and other abuse by a gang. They came to the U.S. as unaccompanied minors because they were certain they would be killed if they stayed in Guatemala. They are now completing high school. We were founded in 1982 by faith congregations who risked arrest and imprisonment to publicly declare their commitment to provide sanctuary for the 60,000 Salvadoran and Guatemalan refugees fleeing violence and persecution by their own governments. In the beginning, we bailed people out of detention, connected them with pro bono lawyers. Member churches provided housing, transportation, and other support. Another goal was to educate the public about the truth of the refugees' experiences and debunk the lies the Reagan administration was spreading. I mention this brief history to underscore that what is happening now in terms of our immigration crisis did not start yesterday, and I know you all know that. We all need to be informed about our history and aware of the consequences of our actions now that will extend well into the future. I wanted to mention that EBSC has been expanding our storytelling, our social justice storytelling project called Amplifying Sanctuary Voices, and we have a new exhibit, Into the Light, that's currently on display at City College in San Francisco and open to the public on the second floor of the Rosenberg Library. And it includes a new section on climate migration and original art from our community members. We're continuing to develop this educational aspect around climate migration, which is continuing to impact the world and will only increase. EBSC has evolved over the past 40 years. Now we reach over 10,000 people every year, and we have a 98% success rate for asylum. We have new programs reaching Indigenous mom communities and Afghan communities, and are currently seeing an influx of people from Myanmar. We welcome your collaboration, whether as a volunteer, as someone who follows us on social media and helps to share accurate information about what's happening, or in the form of a donation. I will be here after the service to answer more questions about ways you can get involved. I wanted to share in closing, in the words of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, President of Haiti, "Alone we are weak, together we are strong, all together we are a flood." Thank you for being part of the sanctuary movement with us.
Thank you, Lisa. Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
All right, everyone's favorite part, the announcements. All right, got a lot going on. So next Sunday after the service, please mark your calendars and plan to stay for our regular February congregational meeting. And there is a link that went out this past week for voting for new members of your Board of Trustees. Be sure to vote. All votes have to be in before that meeting. And this is the regular February congregational meeting. The Freestone meeting and discussion will be one in March, date to be determined soon. So keep your ears out for that. This is the regular one, though, next week. And this coming Saturday is Love Songs and Chocolate. It's back. Heartwarming jazz, classical, and pop songs, all sorts of chocolate treats, and other delicious nibbles. It's a fundraiser for the church, Saturday at 7 p.m. Please come and support the generous musicians of UUCB and feed your chocolate. Love is in the announcement. Feed your chocolate obsession. Yes. The Social Justice Council's Literature, Film, Drama, and Music contingent will not be meeting this afternoon. The date to discuss the 1619 project has been moved to next month on the second Sunday, March 12th at 1:30. Watch the announcements for more details. And next Sunday before the service, sorry, I told you there's a lot going on, Kayleen Asbo will be presenting on Dante and the Art of Love for Personal Theology, 9:30 to 10:30 on Zoom. It is, folks really loved it last time she presented, and I really hope that you can come to it also. She's a passionate scholar, cultural historian, musician, writer, and teacher who weaves myth, music, psychology, history, and art with experiential learning. I wish I could say that I could do half of those things. But she can do them all. Kayleen Asbo for Personal Theology next week on Zoom. And last, Susan, come on over here with me. Come on. I warned her this was going to happen. So for the past 3 years, our own Susan Mashiyama has been working on a certification program with the Unitarian Universalist Association in music leadership. It is a lot of work. I know she worked really hard on it and just recently was voted to achieve that certification. So if I could invite everyone to give her a huge round of applause. It is a big accomplishment, and we're just so proud of you, Susan. All right, speaking of music, let's make some. Please rise in body or in spirit, a song that you've never sung before, For the Beauty of the Earth. It's a real earworm, number 21, and the words will be on screen.
Beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from birth over and around us lies. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise, for the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise, for the wonder of
Guyam, let me switch to this one. Okay. Before I can let you go, we got to review your homework. You're going to go find a tree and say, and give it a, there we go. Bunch of tree huggers, I hope we all are. Please go now with peace, with happiness, with joy, and may you have a blessed week.